Hello and welcome. This is Dhairya Gupta, and today I'll be showcasing my project of connecting our front end, that is Java, to the backend, which is Oracle SQL Plus. We'll be achieving this connection using JDBC, that is Java Database Connectivity. Before we dive right into the project and its code, I would like to explain you the six major steps that is required in order to complete this project. The first step is importing the required libraries. Now, these libraries can be imported from the official Oracle website, and usually it differs it differs based on the database used. All of these libraries can be found on the official websites. Second, we have to create a connection. Now, before we begin any data exchange, and other things, we need to make sure that we create a connection with the database to ensure that we are sending the data into the correct place. Next, we have to create a statement. Creating a connection can be thought of Creating the connection can be thought of as having a phone and calling a friend. Now, creating the statement can be thought of as thinking of what to say. This is the create statement. Now, after we have thought what to say, we have to speak it. That is executing the statement. After we execute the statement, we wait for our friend who we have called to reply back to us. This is getting results. That is what the friend says. Now, we do this again and again until we are done with the call. After this, we should close the connection in order to save resources. So these are the six major steps where we import libraries, create a connection, then think of statements or create the statements and execute them. The results were generated is then taken and then displayed. After the conversation ends, we close the connection. Now we go into the code. So the idea that I have used here is IntelliJ idea. Now, as as we have seen in the first step, that was importing the libraries. This is the library JDBC6 11.204. Now, import java.sql.star imports all of this library over here. Now, we go inside the main class. Here, I have used a fast reader in order to have faster input than scanner. Now, here, this is the greeting that the user will see once he opens our application. Then, the user is prompted to enter username and password. This is because we do not want the user to access unauthorized databases. Only the database that he is authorized to, that is the one he has the username and password for. Now, in order to make sure that it is connected to the correct database, I have created a class called database access and created an object where the parameters are username and password that were taken as input from the user. So, if we go to this class, database access, we can see that it has a member connection con. This connection is part of java.sql imported file. This stores the connection reference. So this is the constructor that has been used. So when we pass the username and password, first we see where the database actually is. So JDBC is connected to Oracle database. Now this has been hosted on a local host on port number 1521. Now the system identifier used is XE. This port number is same for Oracle and differs based on the databases used. Now, once we have this, we create a connection, driver.manager.get connection, driver.manager.get connection URL, username, password. Now, on the URL where the databases are hosted, we put the username and password. If if the credentials are valid, we connect and we exit. Now, the object that has been created for this class has connection con with the following reference. That is the connection to database. Now, in case the user has entered wrong credentials, we are not supposed to connect it again. So, this this method throws an exception where we handle it and just print out connection failed and exit. Now, assuming that the user has entered correct password, we continue further. Here, there's a variable boolean run. It is a boolean variable, that is, it has either values true or false. It is assigned a value true, that is, the loop will be run asking the user to enter queries if database object's member connection is not null. Now, null is the default value that was assigned to DBA once it was created. Now it remains the default value unless the connection is made. If the connection is made, a reference is assigned to it and it's not null anymore. So if the database is con is null, it means that the connection has failed. Thus, we should not run this loop asking the user to enter queries. So, and if he successfully connected, then this whole thing would be true because database connection would not be null. So it will throw true. In that case, run itself would be true. So now we enter the loop system.out.print, enter the type of query to be executed. Here we are giving the user the options to follow one of these commands, to enter one of these commands, that is create table, alter, update table or modify values, insert values, display values, drop table or exit. Now once these options are given, the user is supposed to enter an integer. Um, User is supposed to enter an integer defining the choice that he made. 6 refers to an exit, in which case we immediately exit the loop after closing the connection. So now we'll see how this terminate access method works at the end of the project. Before that, we see that if the option is not 6, then we have to enter the query. So we get the query, we trim for any leading or trailing white spaces, and we take the line, the query that is. Now, since JDBC does not accept semicolon at the end of commands, which is accepted in Oracle, we just check if the last character is semicolon after all this. If it is, we simply remove it. Otherwise, we are good to go. Now, a switch case has been used defining the operation that is used. Based on the operation used, the respective method is called create table for 1, modify table for 2, dba.insert table for 3, dba.select table for 4, dba.drop table for 5. Now, each of these has the parameter as the SQL query. Now, if you remember the 6 major steps I talked about, um, when we called the object, a connection was made. Now, after that, here the connection here we go to the following methods based on the operation. Now say the first option we have to do is create table. So we go here. First, the member has error, which is of type boolean, has been assigned false because as of now we don't have any errors. Now this is made over here because we only want to print that the table has been created successfully if there were no errors during execution. Otherwise, we are not supposed to print this if the table has not been created. So we see that the has array has been declared as false, and then we do update x SQ. If we go over here, we see this. Now the third step that was creating a statement is this. Here we have thought of a statement and created it. Now executing. Next step is execute update. Now there are two ways to execute queries using JDBC. One, execute update, and second, execute queries. Execute update is used when we are not expecting any sort of results to be given, such as when using insert, create table, where the Oracle database just has to create it. In that case, the nothing is returned. The other case is using st.execute query, in which an object is returned, that is, the result to be displayed. That is used when operations queries such as select is used. Now we see that the statement is created over here, con.create statement. This creates a statement. Now the statement that we have is actually the query to be executed, that is SQL. Now if you remember, the parameter sent was SQL, that is the query entered by user. Now we send it to execute. After the execution, we close the statement. By any chance, if there is an error, then the has error member is made to be true and the error is printed out. This has been followed all throughout the project so that there's no runtime errors, and instead we can just see what error is and the project continues normally. Now let's see after this. After this has been executed, the table has been created. Now, assuming that there has been no errors, this remains false, which means the not of false is true. That is, we go inside this loop, go inside this conditional statement and print created table successfully. Similarly, we see modify table is used. The following state update x method is called while executing while modifying the table, because even when we modify or alter the table or change the values, we do not get any sort of results. Thus, the same method update x is used to have code reusability. So this update x is used for create table, modify table, insert table, and drop table. So the same error handling has been done all throughout it. Now, the error handling itself is done in update X, so there's no errors to be handled in these other methods. Although we would know if there has been an error during runtime. Now, the same logic has been used where altered table or created table or data is entered is only displayed if there are no errors. Now, now that we know all this, there's one other thing, that is select. Now, select is somewhat different from the other operations since this actually returns us a result, something we need to read and showcase the users. Here, I've used the dba.select table method with the parameter as SQL that was taken from user. Now, if we come here, select table. First, I've created a statement, then I've executed the query. Notice how this execute query is different from execute update from the before one. This is because now, since we have a result, we need something to store it. Now, this is stored in the type, an object known as result set, which has been provided by the imported libraries. Now, you might be thinking that now since I have the data, what is this result set metadata? Now, this is used because I want to know how many columns are there. While using select, not all tables have the same number of columns. So, in order to print all the tables, all the columns of the table, and not having only a restriction of fixed number of columns, I use this RSMD, that is result set metadata object, to have the metadata, that is data about the result obtained. Now, if you want a number of columns, then all we have to do is rsmd.getColumnCount. This will give us the number of columns. Now, in order to have some presentation where the column name is separated from the column values for better presentation, I have just printed dashes above the column, above and below the column name. So this you'll get to know as soon as I run the program. Next, I iterate through the number of column times, and then each time I see what is the type using rsmd.getColumnType, and then 2 is for numbers. Now, 2 is for number, so we see if the type is not 2. If that is the case, then we left align the content. And for numbers, as seen in SQL, numbers are right aligned, whereas everything else is left aligned. We have followed the same convention over here. The printf format, if -18 is used, left formats it, and if not, then it right formats it. We have printed the column name in each case. After this, again we have printed the dashes for better presentation. Now, this rs.next is used because when we get an object of result set, it points to the first column name, which cannot be printed since it's not a data type, it's metadata. So we do rs.next to get to the next row. The first rs.next, rs.next has two functions. One, it goes to the next row, and two, it returns a boolean that is true or false. It returns true if the next row that it has just reached has data, and false if there's nothing. So essentially this loop runs until it prints all the data in the table. So now we see that for I is equal to 0 to I less than num calls, we increment. That is for all number of columns, we do rsmd.getColumnType. Here we have done this again. For integers, for numbers, we printed on the left right aligned. For everything else, it's left aligned. Now, I plus 1 is used because unlike arrays, unlike the value variable we have used from 0 to num calls -1, the indexes in this are from 1 to n. So the first column is assigned 1 instead of 0, like arrays and other things and other programming languages. So basically, while when our loops runs for the first time, that is I is equal to 0, we need to get the first column, that is I plus 1, 0 plus 1, which is 1. Now, 93 is for date. The date type is stored as 93, is stored as 93. Now, we have done this because when JDBC gets the type data, it actually gets the time along with the date as well. Now, we do not want that. So, we get the string, we trim it for any leading or trailing white spaces, and we split based on white spaces. Now, there would be two parts, one containing the date and the other time. Since we only want the time, we print it on the left aligned, the first part, that is the date. Now, if anything that is not a number or a date is just printed left aligned. Now, we print a line and then increment num rows, which is a variable that has been defined over here to be 0, as you can see over here. Now, this is used because at the end of the query, we do not know how many rows have been selected, how many rows are selected. So after this, we increment it after every time we go to the next row. At the end, we do num rows is equal to we print number of rows selected. That is, if there were 5 rows, then 5 rows selected. Now after this, we close the result set, we close the statement, and we return. And now we see that we can just loop through it again. In by any chance, if the user enters a wrong operation, we just say invalid operation and take input again. For 6, we come over here and we see that run is set to be false, and then a method terminate access is called. What does is that the connection that has been made when the object was called is now closed. Now we go back and then we go out of the block. This results in the process being complete. So now there's no error, so this would not be run. If by any chance something threw an error over here, it would be caught over here, the catch block, and would be printed promptly, leading to no runtime errors and proper work. Now we'll see the actual project working. Now that we have seen how the code works, we'll see the actual functioning of the project. Let's click on run. As you can see, it greets us and asks us for the username and password. Now, if I enter the wrong password or the username, it simply says connection failed. So we need to enter the correct credentials system. QWERTY. As you can see, it has connected because this is the correct credentials for my database. Now, I want to execute the following queries. So I'll do this. I want to create the table. Now the queries over here have been listed here. I want to create the table student. So I'll simply go here and paste this query. The table has been created successfully. In case I wanted to drop it, then I can simply press 5 and drop table student. As you can see, the table has been dropped successfully. Now, since we actually want to create the following tables, I create all the tables that have been done in DA1. These are all the queries. As you can see, it's very lengthy, and since I only have 10 minutes, I'll be skipping to after when I have inserted all the queries. Thank you. Now, I've created all the tables as you can see over here. So, I'll start inserting the values. So, now I want to insert values, so I'll press 3. Now, let's go to our queries. First query is this. As you can see, the row has been inserted successfully. We do this again. 1, 3. Similarly, I'll do this for all the datas over here. Right back after doing it. Now that I've inserted the values into the required tables, let's proceed with the further queries. Let's see the query. Find the average credits of courses. For this, all we need to do is select average credits from course. Average here is an aggregate function. Then, now we'll use option 4 since we are displaying As you see, the average is 3.33. Next is to retrieve the name of faculty who teaches BCS 308L. For this, we'll just natural join teachers with faculty, restrict the answer to where course ID is BCS 308L, and just project the name. Let's comment on this. Ranjan Devi ma'am is one such person who satisfies the above criteria. And now we have to find students who were born in 2004 but not in the month of July. For this, we have to just display the name and register number of student. The extract of months is not 7, that is July, and extract of year is 2004. So let's proceed with this. As you can see, my name is not displayed over here since I was born in July. Now, next we have to display the number of students enrolled in each course that has more than 3 credits. For this, we'll be using a subquery. First, we'll select course ID and count of register number grouped by course ID. Then, we'll natural join it to course, and then we'll restrict the data where credits is greater than 3 and display the count of number of students. Let's see how many such students are there. There's only one such student. Now, we have to list the details of course and student for each course there. Let's go ahead and do it. Now, as you can see, my name has been displayed thrice, Rohit's twice, Rajat's thrice, and Ramesh's once. This is because this is the number of courses each one of us has enrolled. This table over here tells us about the details of each course we enrolled. Now, we have to remove a student's record and their corresponding code. Since the student has multiple tables dependent on him, we have to remove the data from those dependent tables first. Successfully. 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 Now let's just check once for him. So Aditya P is here. Let's run the last query. Delete him from the table. Let's check again for him. As you can see, 0 rows are selected. This is because we have successfully deleted Aditya from the table. Now, we have to group students based on grade on a given course. All we need to do for this is first restrict this table based on a course. Let that given course be BMAT 101. Now, we have the number of we have all the students enrolled in BMAT 101N. Here, we'll count uh, we'll group the data by GPA and display the count of all in each GPA or grade category. Let's run this query. As you can see, one person got D, one person got A, and two people got S. Here, first, we have narrowed down the number of students by only selecting course ID where course ID is BMAT 101L. And then we have displayed the count of all in a given GPA or grade because we grouped by GPA. Here comes the final query. Find the names of faculty who manage this department with specific department. All we need to do is write a simple subquery which returns FID. So here we'll select FID from department where department ID is say E108. Now this FID, now that we have this FID,
All we need to do is select the name which corresponds to this FID from faculty. Let's do it. And we see that the person who satisfies this is Kanchananga. Now we are done with all the queries, so let's exit. As you can see, the code has terminated now. With this, I'd like to conclude my project. Thank you.